The air in the training dome shimmered faintly, not from heat, but from the overlapping force fields that kept the simulated gravity in check. Beyond the transparent barrier, twin moons hung low in the purple sky of Arixis Prime, casting pale light over the Xenocultural Exchange campus. Inside, the scent of metal, ozone, and sweat clung to the air. Caden Orlow sat on the floor, stretching his shoulders as the last of the 8-legged students filed out of the observation stands. His hoodie clung to his back, soaked through from drills. His knuckles were raw, taped clumsily. He wasn't even supposed to spar today, but when one of the instructors asked for a demonstration of basic human grappling techniques, he volunteered. Again, a shadow loomed, not metaphorically literally. Nearly 7 feet tall, Varnick of the Eltari species stood over him, bioluminescent skin dimming slightly in curiosity. "You said you were experiencing discomfort earlier," Varnick said. "Yet you performed 5 rotations with the instructor." "Yeah," Caden said, rotating his left shoulder. "It hurts, but it's manageable. I've logged 27 separate complaints from human participants about minor injuries this cycle alone," Varnick said. "Yet you continue physical exertion. This seems contradictory." Caden glanced up. "Pain and injury aren't the same thing. You can be hurt and still push through it, as long as you're not doing more damage." Varnick's eyes shifted in hue, a sign of confusion. "That does not align with the reports we have studied. Most human records emphasize pain avoidance. That's cause those reports are usually written by people trying to sell painkillers," Caden said, standing and rolling out his shoulder again. "You're not going to understand it by reading about it in labs. You got to see it." He didn't know then how prophetic those words were. The next day, Caden was assigned to a mixed-species sparring rotation. The Eltari students had requested more practical demonstrations of human resilience. One of them, a lanky student named Jorid, had been especially vocal about it. "Human pain response is wildly exaggerated," Jorid said as he adjusted his grip on the padded staff. "Every record shows you vocalize far beyond the injury severity." Caden stepped onto the mat, cracking his neck. "You're going to test a theory, or you just here to talk?" Jorid took that as permission. The first exchange was clean staffs clacked, each of them stepping and pivoting with practiced rhythm. Jorid moved with mechanical precision. Caden was looser, adapting mid-motion. Then it happened. Jorid lunged with an overhead strike. Caden moved in to block, caught the shaft too low, and the force twisted his left arm backward. There was a sickening pop, and Caden dropped his staff immediately. He didn't scream, but his face changed completely. His breath came short and fast. His left arm hung at an unnatural angle, and his knees buckled before he caught himself. "Injury confirmed," Varnick said from the edge of the mat, his voice unusually sharp. "Cease engagement." Caden dropped to one knee, clutching his left shoulder. "Yeah, that's out. Dislocated. You are incapable of continuing," Varnick said. "No," Caden said through clenched teeth. "I can't use the arm. Doesn't mean I can't fight." "That is illogical," Jorid said. "Your upper extremity is no longer functional. This match is concluded." Caden pulled himself up with his right arm, staggered slightly, and picked his staff off the mat. "You wanted to see how humans deal with pain. You're about to." "Human," Varnick said. "You require medical assistance." "Not yet." What followed was not graceful. Caden fought with one arm, compensating with footwork and short jabs. Jorid hesitated at first, unsure whether to take him seriously. But when Caden landed a clean strike to his side, Jorid responded in full. The match lasted only 2 more minutes. Caden couldn't parry properly and took a hit to the ribs that dropped him. But he never let go of the staff. His vision swam, and sweat poured down his face, but he got up again. Varnick signaled the end of the session. Caden collapsed onto the mat, his chest heaving. A medical bot hovered nearby, scanning him. "Left shoulder dislocation confirmed," the bot said. "No fracture. Recommend immediate relocation and immobilization." Caden coughed. "You gonna do it now, or what? Would you like local anesthetic?" the bot asked. No, the aliens watched in silent fascination as the bot braced his arm and counted down. Caden screamed once. Just once. Then came the pop. His arm dropped back into place. He lay there trembling, his face pale. "You should not have continued," Varnick said, kneeling beside him. "The risk of permanent damage was high." "I know," Caden said, "but you all think we fake pain. I needed to show you it's not about ignoring pain. It's about pushing through it with control." Jorid crouched beside him, his face unreadable. I do not understand. You gain nothing by continuing. I did, Caden whispered. I proved a point. He was placed in a sling and taken to the campus infirmary. The prognosis, 2 to 3 weeks for recovery, assuming no complications. He was benched from all physical activity. 2 days into his recovery, Varnick visited his room. You should have ceased the match, Varnick said, standing awkwardly near the doorway. I know, Caden said, adjusting the sling. I'm not saying it was smart. Just necessary. You experienced significant pain and risked further injury, Varnick said. Yet your motivation was to correct a cultural misconception. Pretty much, Caden said. I have reviewed over 6,000 hours of medical logs, Varnick said. None of them prepared me to witness that. Caden chuckled. Books only tell you so much. Varnick stepped forward. We would like your assistance in developing updated training protocols for interspecies injury assessments. Your input would be instructive. Sure, Caden said. Just let me get my arm back first. Later that week, during a lecture on comparative biology, the instructor played a slowed-down recording of Caden's dislocation and continued fighting. The room, filled with various species, remained silent. This, the instructor said, is not an example of biological superiority. This is behavioral. The ability to endure pain is not unique to humans. But the willingness to act through it deliberately, even at personal cost, is culturally significant. Caden, seated at the back with his arms still in a sling, turned red. He wasn't expecting to be used as a case study. Varnick turned to him. You have complicated our understanding of your species. That's what I'm here for, Caden said. Over the next 3 weeks, he followed a strict recovery plan. Physical therapy, joint stability exercises. No shortcuts. No heroics. The day he was cleared for light activity, Jorrit approached him on the practice field. I have reviewed your performance 23 times, Jorrit said. I still do not understand the logic. It wasn't logical, Caden said. It was personal. I would like to spar again, Jorrit said. Caden raised an eyebrow. You're not going to try to dislocate the other one, right? No, then let's do it. And this time, when they fought, it was with mutual respect. No points to prove. Just movement, learning, and the quiet understanding that sometimes pain wasn't a weakness, it was a signal of something deeper, something worth pushing through. Caden didn't win, but he didn't need to. For days after the match, Caden sat on a low bench in the open-air recovery atrium, his sling traded for a rigid brace that pinned his arm to his chest at a 90-degree angle. The midday light filtered through the translucent canopy overhead, casting soft-moving patterns across his lap. A gentle breeze carried the faint scent of something peppery, probably the Exari healing moss they kept in planters along the wall. He breathed it in without thinking. Across from him, a trio of students circled a table, heads tilted in varying degrees of curiosity. They weren't the usual crowd. These were from the Trellin Academy's xenopsychology cohort observers, not participants. Varnick stood among them, arms folded behind his back. You're aware this is a voluntary session, Varnick said. Caden nodded once. I'm not being forced into a therapy circle, if that's what you're worried about. We have no interest in altering your behavior, said a tall student with a face like polished chitin. We simply wish to understand it. Same thing, really, Caden muttered, then leaned back. All right, ask. The chitin-faced one, who introduced herself earlier as CH Vale, flicked her fingers in a gesture that might have meant gratitude or signal. Another student, shorter and with translucent fins along his jawline, stepped closer. Why didn't you submit to the automatic override protocols? He asked. Didn't know there were any, Caden said. There are pressure sensors in the training staffs, CH Vale said. They detect resistance anomalies. Your joint misalignment should have triggered a non-lethal override to end the session. Didn't feel anything disengage, Caden said. Maybe it didn't trip. That is impossible, the finned one said. The threshold is calibrated to species-specific tolerances. Well, either it failed, or I broke your calibration. They exchanged a look subtle, but definite. Varnick stepped forward. Your continued movement after injury exceeds known tolerance levels, he said. We require a new benchmark if we are to integrate your species into shared physical training curricula. Caden raised an eyebrow. You're rewriting the rules because of one bad shoulder? Not rewriting. Adjusting. The current models fail to predict outcomes. He let out a low whistle. That's one way of saying I messed up your data. CH Vale crouched beside him, her compound eyes narrowing. Did you experience any hallucinations following the injury? No. Just a lot of swearing. Elevated aggression? I'm always like that. Loss of coordination? Only when I sneezed. Varnick made a note on his tablet. Humorous deflection remains consistent. You invited me here to talk about dislocated joints, not my personality. CH Vale tapped her mandibles together. How did you learn to relocate your own shoulder? I didn't. The medbot did it. Would you have attempted it yourself if the bot hadn't been available? Caden hesitated. Yeah. They all stared at him. I've done it before, he added. Back in school. Rugby match. Same arm. That is. Deeply concerning, said the finned one. Welcome to Earth. Varnick cleared his throat. We would like to observe your rehabilitation sessions. Discreetly. You're asking to follow me to physical therapy now? CH Vale stood. No. We're asking to understand. Caden gave a slow nod. All right. But if I see any of you taking notes while I'm trying to stretch, I'm kicking you out. You will not be using that leg today, Varnick said. Caden grinned. Then I'll use the other one. Later that afternoon, the physical therapy center buzzed with quiet activity. Soft mats lined the floor, and a few humans stretched under the supervision of biomech specialists. Caden stood near a wall, one foot braced against it while his therapist, a no-nonsense woman named Leora, adjusted the strap tension on his brace. You're not doing anything overhead today, she said. Wasn't planning to. Or weight-bearing. What do you call that wall? You're leaning. Don't get clever. From across the room, Varnick and the others watched through a transparent panel. None of them spoke. They simply observed. Leora stepped back. Start with pendulums. Caden bent at the waist, letting his injured arm dangle. He made slow circles, letting gravity do the work. His face was unreadable, but his jaw worked tightly as he moved. How's the pain? About a 4. Liar. Okay. 6. That's better. Keep going. Through the panel, CH Vale tapped a display. He's voluntarily inducing joint movement within pain range. Therapeutic movement, Varnick said. The goal is healing, but he's doing it without pharmacological assistance. Deliberate. Caden switched directions. His hand trembled slightly. Next, he asked. Isometric holds. No jerking. He stood upright, pressed his hand against a foam panel, and pushed gently, engaging the shoulder muscles without movement. His face twitched as he held. You're at your limit, Leora said. I can go longer. You're not supposed to. He released the pressure, exhaling sharply. Feels like someone's digging a spoon into my joint. That means the scar tissue's tight. We'll work it out. He sat on a bench, breathing heavily. Sweat clung to his brow. Same time tomorrow, Leora said. Can't wait. As he left the therapy center, Varnick intercepted him just beyond the threshold. Your expressions during treatment were difficult to interpret, Varnick said. Yeah, pain tends to do that. Yet you did not withdraw. I wasn't supposed to. That's the point. You could have requested chemical relief, but then I wouldn't know where the limits are. CH Vale appeared beside them. You deliberately avoid analgesics to measure your own boundaries? Sometimes, Caden said. It's not about suffering. It's about control. You reinterpret suffering as mastery, she said. No, I just don't like surprises. If something's gonna hurt, I'd rather know how much and when. They fell silent. You're not gonna quote that in a report, are you? He asked. Too late, Varnick said. 2 days later, during a peer workshop on adaptive recovery strategies, Caden was invited to sit on a panel. He didn't want to, but Leora insisted it would be good for him. Mental rehab matters too, she said. The room was packed mostly non-human students. A few humans sat in the back, arms crossed, clearly as skeptical about the whole thing as Caden was. He shifted in his seat, adjusting the strap on his brace. The moderator, a soft-voiced being composed mostly of flickering bioplasma, asked the first question. What defines resilience in your experience? Caden scratched his chin. Knowing you'll get better, even when everything sucks. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Does that belief originate from biology or psychology? He shrugged. Doesn't matter. What matters is it works. Another student, this one with multiple ocular ridges, raised a hand. If the pain had intensified, what would you have done? Stopped. I'm not trying to be a martyr, but you continued despite damage. It wasn't getting worse. Do you always make these evaluations in real time? Don't have much choice. CH Vale stood at the back of the room. Do you understand that many of us were afraid when we watched you continue to fight? I figured. It was not admiration. It was confusion. We didn't know what you were proving. I wasn't proving anything to you, he said. I was proving something to me. She nodded once. After the session, Caden stepped outside into the evening air. The moons had shifted, casting a different shade of light than before. A few students lingered, talking in hushed clusters. Varnick joined him on the steps. You do not seek to be exceptional, Varnick said. Nope. And yet you are consistently placed in exceptional situations. That's not my fault. No, Varnick said. It's ours. We underestimated you. Caden exhaled slowly, brushing hair from his forehead. Next time, maybe don't throw me in with someone who can snap a femur by sneezing. We have adjusted the pairings. Good. Varnick turned to leave, then paused. What would you have done if your other shoulder had dislocated during the match? Caden looked up at the stars. Bite down. Brace. And wait for the medbot. By the time Caden's brace was finally cleared to come off, the novelty of him had begun to wear off across the Arixis Prime interspecies campus. He no longer caught stares in the common halls or heard hushed conversations snap shut when he walked past. The aliens had moved on to new curiosities, fresher anomalies. But one group hadn't. Your range of motion is still limited, said Leora, tugging his left arm forward while he grit his teeth. But that's expected. You've got some lingering inflammation in the capsule. We'll keep working on flexion next week. He exhaled through his nose. Feels like it's glued in place. It'll come loose, she said. As long as you don't try anything stupid. You really think I'd do that again? I think you might, she said, releasing his arm. But I hope you won't. He rolled his shoulder carefully, testing the new limits. It still pulled, deep near the front, but he could reach his opposite shoulder now. That was something. Varnick's team still following you? She asked. They're not taking notes anymore, he said. Now they just ask weird questions and stare. They're curious. They're unnerving. Outside the clinic, the sky had shifted into its evening hue, a strange in-between color that didn't exist on Earth, not quite orange, not quite violet. He stepped out slowly, rotating his shoulder in the cool air. Varnick was waiting near the base of the stairwell, hands clasped behind his back, flanked by C.H. Vale and the Finn student, whose name Caden had learned was Elric. You are no longer restricted from physical engagement, Varnick said. Just got the news, Caden said. Feels like I graduated from something. C.H. Vale tilted her head. We have been preparing a simulation. He frowned. What kind of simulation? Neutral environment. Controlled variables. You will experience predefined stressors, and we will observe your responses. You want to watch me get hurt again? No, Elric said, stepping forward. We want to understand how your body adapts once it expects pain. Caden crossed his arms, slower than he used to. You're trying to measure anticipation? And its impact on motor control, coordination, and cognition, Varnick said. He looked at them, then sighed. Fine. But if this turns into another lesson in what's the threshold for screaming, I'm walking out. An hour later, he stood in a narrow chamber lined with soft reactive panels and a low, humming ceiling. The lights were dimmed. The floor shifted underfoot with each step, mimicking unstable terrain. Begin baseline movement, came a voice through the speaker. No resistance. He moved forward slowly, stepping over low obstacles. The floor adjusted subtly. He ducked under a beam, rotated his torso, reached with his left arm. A twinge, but nothing sharp. Elevating complexity, the voice said. Padded projectiles emerged from the wall's low speed, randomized angles. He dodged the first few, then let one graze his shoulder. It didn't hurt, but it surprised him. He kept moving, body looser now, reading the rhythm. The wall sent a higher speed target. He twisted, caught it midair, flinched as the left arm protested. Stress response noted, said the speaker. Yeah, no kidding, he muttered. A minute later, the lights dimmed further. A pulsing sound started low, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The projectiles came faster, mixed with sudden gusts of air and force shifts. His foot slipped once, and he caught himself with both hands. The left arm jolted, but held. Pain? Came the speaker. Manageable, he said. Define. Like catching a drawer on your knuckles. Stings. Doesn't stop you. There was a pause. Proceed to final phase. The chamber shifted again. A small ledge rose in the center, maybe waist high. He stepped onto it. The lights cut entirely. Total darkness. Then came the voice again, softer now. Describe your thoughts. He stood in the dark, blinking against nothing. I'm waiting for something to hit me, he said. Do you feel fear? No, just tension. Do you expect pain? Yes. Does that change your movement? He thought for a moment. It makes me plan more. I'm not reacting. I'm guessing. Are you less effective? Maybe slower, but not worse. The lights came back up slowly. The floor stabilized. Simulation complete, the voice said. Varnick met him outside the chamber. You adapted to the unknown variables faster than predicted, he said. I cheated, Caden replied. I assumed you'd throw something unexpected at me, so I slowed down. Vale approached, tablet in hand. Your heart rate remained elevated for less time than during the original injury. I guess I'm getting used to being your lab rat. She didn't laugh, but her mandibles twitched slightly. Back in the observation dome, they reviewed footage. Caden sat on a bench while the aliens dissected his every twitch, angle, and foot placement. He didn't bother watching. You catalog everything like we're machines, he said, finally. Our goal is comprehension, Elric said. You're not going to find it in joint angles. Varnick turned from the screen. Then where should we look? Caden tapped his temple. Start there. You guys keep trying to understand pain like it's a switch. On or off. You haven't asked what it means. They were quiet. Pain isn't just sensation, he continued. It's memory, instinct, fear, pride. Sometimes even comfort. You want to know why someone keeps going through it, you've got to understand what they think it's for. That is not quantifiable, Vale said. Exactly. Elric sat down beside him. Then why do you permit it? Because sometimes it's the only way to get to the other side of something. Varnick remained still for a long moment. We were not prepared for that. You never are, Caden said. Later that week, during their final debrief, the alien team presented their findings to a mixed audience. Caden sat in the back, arms crossed not because he was annoyed, but because his shoulders still ached if he left it hanging too long. Varnick stood at the front, the projection behind him showing a series of graphs and biometric readouts. Human pain response does not follow a single predictable curve, he said. Its expression varies by culture, context, and individual purpose. In the subject studied, we found that psychological framing played a dominant role in determining pain tolerance. Vale took over. Attempts to replicate the subject's behavior in simulation with other species resulted in inconsistent outcomes. None matched the human's combination of self-pacing, cognitive reframing, and goal persistence. Elric added the final note. The implication is clear. Human resilience is not simply a matter of biology, it is a negotiated process between discomfort and intent. It is not about ignoring pain. It is about assigning it meaning. There was a long silence after that, then a gentle ripple of agreement. Caden stood once it was done, stretching his shoulder in slow, practiced arcs. Varnick approached him quietly. You have changed our curriculum. Hopefully not just to include more pain. No, Varnick said, but to acknowledge that sometimes, pain is part of the lesson. Caden nodded once. Good. And your arm? Varnick asked. He rotated it again. Still stiff. But I'll get there. As the hall emptied, Vale lingered. You were not what we expected, she said. Yeah, I get that a lot. She tilted her head. Will you continue training? I'll keep moving, he said. Just smarter this time. She extended a hand, not a gesture common to her species, but one she'd clearly adopted for him. He shook it carefully. Then he walked out into the evening light, both arms moving, both feet steady, and nothing more to prove.